He woke up covered in blood, barely alive, with one terrifying truth missing. He had no idea who tried to kill him. It was a cold autumn night in 2016, in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside Manchester, England, a place where doors were rarely locked and violent crime was almost unheard of. At 2:17 a.m., emergency services received a call from a passing driver who found a man lying motionless near the edge of a narrow road, barely breathing. That man was 34-year-old Daniel Harper. He had suffered severe head trauma, deep lacerations, and multiple broken ribs, but somehow he was still alive. What nobody knew at the time was that this case would become one of the most baffling mysteries investigators had ever faced, because when Daniel finally woke up, he couldn't remember who attacked him or why. Daniel Harper was by all accounts an ordinary man. He worked as a freelance graphic designer, lived alone, and kept a small but close circle of friends. He wasn't wealthy, he wasn't involved in crime, and he had no known enemies. Friends described him as quiet, thoughtful, even introverted, the kind of person who avoided conflict at all costs. The neighborhood where he lived reflected that same calm, with tree-lined streets, small cafes, and families who had known each other for years. Nothing about Daniel's life suggested violence, and yet someone had tried to kill him. The night of the attack began like any other. Daniel had spent the evening working from home, and around 10 p.m. he messaged a friend saying he might step out for a short walk to clear his head. That was the last anyone heard from him. Security footage from a nearby street later showed Daniel walking alone under dim streetlights at around 10:42 p.m., looking calm and unaware. Then nothing. No witnesses, no sounds of struggle reported. At some point between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., Daniel was brutally attacked. Investigators believe he was struck from behind, possibly with a blunt object, and the force was so severe it caused traumatic brain injury. He collapsed, bleeding heavily, and was left for dead, but against all odds, he survived. When police began their investigation, they quickly realized something was very wrong. There were no signs of robbery, as Daniel's wallet, phone, and watch were still with him. There was no evidence of a struggle at the scene, no footprints, no weapon. It was as if the attacker had appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. Then came the most frustrating obstacle of all. Daniel woke up in the hospital 3 days later, but due to his injuries, he suffered from partial amnesia. He remembered his name, his job, his childhood, but he couldn't remember the attack. He couldn't remember where he had been walking. And most importantly, he couldn't remember who might have wanted to hurt him. Police interviewed everyone in his life, friends, family, clients, neighbors, but nothing surfaced. No arguments, no threats, no suspicious behavior. For weeks, the case went cold, until a single detail changed everything. While reviewing Daniel's recovered phone data, investigators found something unusual, a deleted message thread that had been erased just hours before the attack. Forensic specialists managed to partially recover the conversation, and the messages were brief and tense, exchanged with someone saved only as M. In the final message, sent at 10:31 p.m., Daniel had written, "I think we need to talk tonight." That message was never answered, but it raised a chilling possibility. What if Daniel hadn't been attacked randomly? What if he had gone out that night to meet someone and that meeting turned violent? Police tracked down every contact linked to M and eventually identified a potential match. Mark Ellis, a former client Daniel had worked with months earlier. Their business relationship had ended abruptly, but no one knew why. When questioned, Mark denied any recent contact with Daniel, but phone records told a different story, showing multiple calls between them in the days leading up to the attack. Still, there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. No witnesses, no weapon, no confession, and Daniel still couldn't remember. Months passed, and Daniel underwent intensive therapy hoping his memory would return. Doctors said it was possible, but not guaranteed. Then, nearly a year after the attack, something changed. A fragment of memory surfaced, a face, not clear, not complete, but familiar. Daniel told investigators he remembered arguing with someone that night, a man, and although he couldn't be certain, he believed it might have been Mark. Even with this new statement, the evidence remained circumstantial. The case never reached trial, and officially it remains unsolved. Mark Ellis was never charged, and Daniel Harper never fully regained his memory. Some crimes leave behind fingerprints, witnesses, and clear answers, but others leave only silence. A man nearly lost his life. He survived the attack, but the truth, the one thing that could have brought justice, was locked away inside his own mind. And perhaps the most chilling question of all is this: if the person who tried to kill him is still out there, did they walk away knowing they would never be remembered? Or worse, are they still watching, knowing the truth may never come out?